Good morning, 8th grade. It is Wednesday, March 18th. Today's mini lesson, we're going to talk about two more nonfiction text structures, compare, contrast, and cause and effect. When you look at this page, you'll notice that compare, contrast is often looked at using a Venn diagram where we see similarities and differences. Pretty simple. Cause and effect is kind of a one or two things cause multiple effects. So you'll see there's causes and then their resulting effects. So we're going to look at two really short articles and try to figure out how we know which one is cause and effect and which one is compare contrast. In this first article, we're going to be looking at the homes of medieval people. So let's take a listen and see if you can figure out, is the author comparing and contrasting or talking about causes and effects. And this is a great source from learner.org. You'll see the web link up in the upper right-hand corner, so check it out. We will be using this site for future activities. Homes of the wealthy. The homes of the rich were more elaborate than the peasants' homes. Their floors were paved as opposed to being strewn with rushes and herbs and sometimes decorated with tiles. Tapestries were hung on the walls, providing not only decoration, but also an extra layer of warmth. Fenestral windows with lattice frames that were covered in a fabric soaked in resin and tallow allowed in light, kept out drafts, and could be removed in good weather. Only the wealthy could afford panes of glass. Sometimes only churches and royal residences had glass windows. In this first paragraph, you're going to see some examples of compare and contrast. The homes of the rich, as opposed to being strewn with rushes and herbs. You'll notice that words like as opposed to or in addition to or different, more elaborate than peasants' homes. Only the wealthy could afford panes of glass. So this first paragraph, you've already got a couple clues that we're comparing the homes of the rich and homes of the poor. In the second paragraph about the kitchen, again, you're going to see they're going to talk about one type of home and then they're going to compare it to the other. So in the kitchen, it says, in simpler homes, there were no chimneys. The medieval kitchen consisted of a stone hearth and in the center of the room. This was not only where the cooking took place, but also the source of central heating. In peasant families, the wife did the cooking and baking. The peasant diet consisted of breads, vegetables from their own gardens, dairy products from their own sheep, goats, and cows, and pork from their livestock. Often the true taste of their meat, salted and used throughout the year, was masked by the addition of herbs, leftover bread, and vegetables. Some vegetables, such as cabbages, leeks, and onions, became known as pot herbs. This pottage was a staple of the peasant diet. Now, the next one we're going to compare. The kitchens of manor houses and castles had big fireplaces where meat, even large oxen, could be roasted in spits. These kitchens were usually in separate buildings to minimize the threat of fire. So both description of the actual home and then the kitchens, it's compare contrast. And if we were to put this stuff in a Venn diagram, I'm guessing the only thing that we could find that they have similar is they were probably cold and drafty, and the kitchens used a fireplace to cook. But the homes of the wealthy were much different, more elaborate than the homes of the peasants. And the kitchens in the peasant home really wasn't a kitchen. It was just a stone hearth in the center of the room. So this one is an example of compare and contrast. One of my favorite topics in medieval history is health and medicine. We've heard a few examples of how gruesome things could be. So we're going to look at this article and we're going to look for examples of cause and effect structures. As the populations of medieval towns and cities increased, hygienic conditions worsened, leading to a vast array of health problems. Medical knowledge was limited, and despite the efforts of medical practitioners and public and religious institutions to institute regulations, medieval Europe did not have an adequate healthcare system. Antibiotics weren't invented till the 1800s, and it was almost impossible to cure diseases without them. So in this article, the first thing we want to look for is, well, what's causing the problems? So as I read the first sentence, there's our cause. As populations of medieval towns and cities increased, hygienic conditions worsened, leading to a vast array of health problems. What was the cause of all kinds of medieval problems with their health? Increased population. We also looked at limited or non-existent health care. What were the effects of the increased population and limited health care? Poor hygiene or worsening hygiene and increase in health problems. Sorry about the handwriting, but you know how I am. So because, when we think of because this happened, then this was the result. Because there was an increase in population, the result was much poorer hygiene, greater increase in health problems. Because there was a limited healthcare system in medieval Europe, they did not have adequate healthcare system. So cause and effect, you're looking for something that's causing a ripple effect, something that will cause many different things to happen because of one or two sources. So this is cause and effect. I'm not going to give you any more readings to do right now, but just look over the video. I'm sure you enjoyed my dog barking, and I'll check in with you later.